Hello y'all, and welcome back to the channel where the biblical backgrounds matter. We're diving back into the book of Job in chapter 15 tonight. Remember in previous chapters 13 and 14, Job had prayed to God a despondent prayer with basically a bunch of questions. And he basically poured his heart out to him. But now, Eliphaz is back in the picture, and he accuses Job of folly. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, "Should a wise man answer with empty knowledge, and fill himself with the east wind? Should he reason with unprofitable talk, or by speeches with which he can do no good? Yes, you cast off fear and restrain prayer before God, for your iniquity teaches your mouth, and you choose the tongue of the crafty. Your own mouth condemns you, and not I. Yes, your own lips testify against you. Are you the first man who was born, or were you made before the hills? Have you heard the counsel of God? Do you limit wisdom to yourself? What do you know that we do not know? What do you understand that is not in us? Both the gray-haired and the aged are among us, much older than your father." That's verses 1 through 10. So Eliphaz accuses Job with questions, basically. I think it's important to back up to the previous chapters, just for context, to see why Eliphaz is accusing Job. Remember in chapter 14, Job says this: "Man who is born of woman is of few days and full of trouble. He comes forth like a flower and fades away. He flees like a shadow and does not continue. And do you open your eyes on such a one and bring me to judgment with yourself?" This was Job once again praying to God. He says, "Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean thing? No one. Since his days are determined, the number of his months is with you." Once again, this was Job talking to God. The number of his days, since his days are determined, the number of his months is with you. You have appointed his limits so that he cannot pass. There again, the life of man is short and full of trouble. So Job says to God, "Look away from him that he may rest." He's talking about himself here. He says, "Till like a hired man he finishes his day, for there is hope for a tree. If it is cut down, that it will sprout again, and that its tender shoots will not cease. Though its root may grow old in the earth, and its stump may die in the ground, yet at the scent of water it will bud and bring forth branches like a plant. But man dies and is laid away. Indeed, he breathes his last. And where is he? As water disappears from the sea, and a river becomes parched, and dries up, so man lies down and does not rise. Till the heavens are no more, they will not awake, nor be roused from their sleep. Once again, this has a reference to the end of time. Because when you cross-reference with Revelation, it speaks of the heavens being burned up and the earth being set on fire. And John saw a new heaven and a new earth. And why would that be? Well, obviously because sinful man cannot enter into heaven. So all the sins of man have to be burned up, and the heavens and the earth have to be destroyed, and all things, including the heavens and the earth, have to be made new. As we see in the New Testament. Now fast forward to Job chapter 15. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, should a wise man answer with empty knowledge and fill himself with the east wind? Remember that Job, as the whole book, is written as wisdom literature. And it has a theme of God's sovereignty, His providence, His protection. And wisdom that only God Himself possesses. Verse 3, should he reason with unprofitable talk, or by speeches with which he can do no good? Yes, you cast off fear and restrain prayer before God. It seems like a strange accusation because Job was just praying to God in previous chapters. So why would Eliphaz accuse Job of restraining prayer before God? Was he saying that Job's prayer was restraining to God? The Almighty God cannot be restrained. He does all things according to His own will. Verse 5, for your iniquity teaches your mouth, and you choose the tongue of the crafty. So now Job is being accused of choosing the devil and the ways of the world. He's being accused of sinning against God because he is suffering, because he is being persecuted. Remember this, God never promised us an easy life. Verse 6, your own mouth condemns you, and not I. Yes, your own lips testify against you. Are you the first man who was born? Or were you made before the hills? Obviously, the answer is no. Because Job existed around 1900 BC. So you have at least another 1800 years, or at least 1,000 years in between Adam and Job. Even though Job is said to be the first book written, I would put Genesis next in line, which is said to have been written by Moses, probably around, once again, sometime between 12 and 1100 BC. Verse 8. Have you heard the counsel of God? Do you limit wisdom to yourself? What do you know that we do not know? What do you understand that is not in us? Here Eliphaz, the Temanite, was questioning Job and basically asking him, do you know something that we do not know? Job didn't have any answers here for his suffering. Verse 10, both the gray-haired and the aged are among us, much older than your father. Verse 11, are the consolations of God too small for you, and the word spoken gently with you? Why does your heart carry away, and what do your eyes wink at, that you turn your spirit against God, and let such words go out of your mouth? What is man that he could be pure, and he who is born of woman that he could be righteous? If God puts no trust in his saints, and the heavens are not pure in his sight, how much less man who is abominable and filthy, who drinks iniquity like water. Verse 17, I will tell you, hear me. What I have seen I will declare, what wise men have told, not hiding anything received from their fathers, to whom alone the land was given, and no alien passed among them. The wicked man writhes with pain all his days, and the number of years is hidden from the oppressor. The oppressor seems to be the devil. Verse 21, dreadful sounds are in his ears. In prosperity the destroyer comes upon him. He does not believe that he will return from darkness, for a sword is waiting for him. He wanders about for bread, saying, where is it? He knows that a day of darkness is ready at his hand. Trouble and anguish make him afraid. They overpower him like a king ready for battle, for he stretches out his hand against God and acts defiantly against the Almighty, running stubbornly against him with his strong embossed shield. Job is being compared to the wicked man. Once again, you go all the way back to the beginning of Job. It says that he was one that was upright before God, one who eschewed evil. So just because one suffers does not mean that they're not in right standing with God. Verse 27, though he has covered his face with his fatness, and made his waist heavy with fat, he dwells in desolate cities, in houses which no one inhabits, which are destined to become ruins. He will not be rich, nor will his wealth continue, nor will his possessions overspread the earth. We see the accusations that are made from Eliphaz against Job. But we also know that in all this, Job did not waver in his faith in God, nor did he sin against God. Verse 30, he will not depart from darkness. The flame will dry out his branches, and by the breath of his mouth he will go away. Let him not trust in futile things, deceiving himself, for futility will be his reward. Now there's an application for us. If we trust in the futile things of this world, we will deceive ourselves. We will bring destruction on ourselves. But if we trust in God, then we will reap the benefits and the rewards in the end. Verse 32, it will be accomplished before his time, and his branch will not be green. He will shake off his unripe grape like a vine, and cast off his blossom like an olive tree. For the company of hypocrites will be barren, and fire will consume the tents of bribery. They conceive trouble and bring forth futility. Their womb prepares deceit. So we have the theme of the wicked man, of which Job is accused of being. A wicked man loves the ways of the world. The wicked man wants to indulge in the ways of the world. The wicked man puts his trust in the things of the world and everything that he can gain. But one that is said to be in right standing with God is the one who rejects the ways of the world and puts their trust, their hope, and their faith in God alone. One who loves God, trusts God, and worships God and serves God with every ounce of their being, not wavering. Let's move on into chapter 16. Then Job answered and said, I have heard so many such things. Miserable comforters are you all. Shall words of wind have an end? Job is basically saying, your accusations against me are unjust. Job still doesn't fully understand why he's suffering, but he's basically telling Eliphaz, look, you don't even know the whole situation. Verse 3, shall words of wind have an end, or what provokes you that you answer? I also could speak as you do, if your soul were in my soul's place. I could heap words against you and shake my head at you, but I would strengthen you with my mouth, and the comfort of my lips would relieve your grief. There Job is bringing an answer to Eliphaz. And he's basically giving him an answer that applies to all of us New Testament believers. In verses 4 and 5, he says, I also could speak as you do, if your soul were in my soul's place. He's saying you don't understand the situation. If the situation were reversed, I could easily speak to you the same way you're speaking to me, is what he's saying. He said, I could heap up words against you and shake my head at you, but I would strengthen you with my mouth, and the comfort of my lips would relieve your grief. In the New Testament, we are instructed not to render evil for evil. If someone speaks a false accusation against us, we are to offer them words of encouragement, words of forgiveness, words of mercy and grace. Job 16:6, though I speak, my grief is not relieved, and if I remain silent, how am I eased? But now he has worn me out. You have made desolate all my company. You have shriveled me up, and it is a witness against me. My leanness rises up against me and bears witness to my face. He tears me in his wrath and hates me. He gnashes his teeth. He gnashes at me with his teeth. My adversary sharpens his gaze on me. It seems to me that Job has figured out by now that it's an attack from the devil, because he speaks of the adversary. Verse 9, he says, he tears me in his wrath and hates me. He gnashes at me with his teeth. My adversary sharpens his gaze on me. Verse 10, they gape at me with their mouth. They strike me reproachfully on the cheek. They gather together against me. First John chapter 4 verse 1 says, believe not every spirit, beloved, but test the spirits to see which ones are of God. Romans and Ephesians say that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So this is obviously what Job was wrestling against here. Job 16:12, I was at ease, but he has shattered me. He also has taken me by my neck and shaken me to pieces. He has set me up for his target. His archers surround me. The word he is capitalized. So Job is talking about God here and saying he's the one that's allowing all this to happen to him, which is correct. God allowed all this to happen. Because remember, way back in the beginning of Job, Satan himself had to get God's permission to get to Job. He pierces my heart and does not pity. He pours out my gall on the ground. He breaks me with wound up wound. He breaks me with wound upon wound. With wound upon wound. He runs at me like a warrior. I have sewn sackcloth over my skin and laid my head in the dust. My face is flushed from weeping, and on my eyelids is the shadow of death. Although no violence is in my hand, and my prayer is pure. There again, Job is replying to Eliphaz. And he is saying that though he has poured his heart out in prayer to God. That ultimately God is the one in control of this and the one allowing it to happen. Verse 18, O earth, do not cover my blood, and let my cry have no resting place. By this time, Job seems to be ready for his own death. Verse 19, surely even now my witness is in heaven, and my evidence is on high. My friends scorn me, my eyes pour out tears to God. Oh, that one might plead for a man with God, as a man pleads for his neighbor. For when a few years are finished, I shall go the way of no return. Job is saying basically a few more years and I will die. But this also parallels what Jesus Christ went through for us when he suffered and bled and died on the cross. He was beaten and then he was crucified. He was falsely accused, much like Job was here. So therefore, we have some parallels in the Old Testament that characterize what Christ went through for us and what he would go through for the people who were beating him and who were falsely accusing him. Let's read verses 20 to 22 again in Job chapter 16. My friends scorn me. My eyes pour out tears to God. Jesus was scorned for us, for all believers. So that's the parallel between him and Job. Verse 21, oh, that one might plead for a man with God. Remember that Christ pleads for us as sure as he bled for us while he was on that cross, bleeding and dying and suffering. He was still pleading for our forgiveness. Verse 22, for when a few years are finished, I shall go the way of no return. Job is saying a few years and I'll be in my grave. Remember that Job was another mortal man. Though he stuck close to God, he was still human. So therefore, even though he went through all that, he didn't know how much more he could stand. So he was just about ready for his own death. And that's about all I've got for this lesson today. But until next time, God bless you. And remember that biblical backgrounds matter. And if you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comment section below. If the video is any help to you at all, hit the thumbs up button and share the video with your friends.